Welcome back. Thanks for hanging with us. We do appreciate it, everybody. We are Sports Take, Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn. And let everybody know about my guy, Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because I can tell you from personal experience, trying to find the right person to trust with your finances is a challenge. And I did with Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business, you need help with your employee benefits. And that's another resource that Jim can help you with. I know personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k roller with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. That much is for sure. All right, give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751 is how you reach him. You can also email him, Murray, murray.jim@principal.com. That's murray.jim@principal.com. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Just wrapped up our discussion with Terry McCormick from Titans Insider. Gave us some insight on the Kevin Byard trade. The Eagles acquired him yesterday. If you weren't sure about that, which I thought was an excellent move by the Eagles. Didn't give up much in return for him. So, Gunner, they give up a 2024 5th and 6th and Terrell Edmonds. Look, the 5th and 6th are crapshoots, and you had a lot of picks anyway. Edmonds, let's face it, average at best player. You talked about it a little bit earlier. Mike Tomlin's not letting him go if he can really play at a high level. So you upgraded. I mean, that's the only way I look at it is, what did you do for yourself this year? You upgraded in a big way. What's up, Fitness Rebel checking in? But yeah, I mean, I think that smart move by the Eagles. It really is. And it's a very Howie-ish kind of move. Smart.
They identified they needed something, and it wasn't a move of desperation because they're 6-1. This is a move of trying to make a good product even better.
Yep.
The kids in the back end they're relying on can't stay healthy, or they can't stay healthy, and they're still a little too raw in terms of giving them what they need with the schedule that they're in now. They survived against the likes of a Miami. But the laws of averages in this game catch up to you, all teams, sooner or later.
No doubt.
You know? And Howie took a preemptive strike to make sure that didn't happen, or hope it doesn't happen. Because I love what Terry said about him in terms of what he can do, being versatile, all-pro, so on and so forth. But another guy who I've known a long time, and you know him as well, Teron Davenport basically said there's concerns about him being able to cover tight ends, cover in the slot, that he's possibly lost the step. Now, I trust Teron. Teron Davenport, he worked in Philadelphia. He works for ESPN.com. Teron is an excellent excellent football guy, just like Terry.
Yep.
So you have two different opinions on why Tennessee let him go and, of course, what he potentially brings to the Eagles. So that's something to keep a close eye on. One guy gives them glowing reviews about, the locker room. The locker room thing is huge. Obviously, you want a high caliber player, but in this Eagles organization, the first thing they want to know is, beyond your talent on the field, what's he like in terms of integrating with teammates?
Mm-hmm.
You heard Terry say, great locker room guy. That's exactly what this Eagles organization is looking for. Somebody who comes in here, fits in, plus he knows a few players from here, plus he's coming home, coming home to Philadelphia.
Yep.
Now we have to wait to find out, and not just a one-game sample, because the first game or two is probably going to be a little rough,
Sure.
with him understanding.
He may not be on the field as much as he'll be as time goes on.
Yeah, understanding the personnel around you, getting accustomed to the terminology here.
Right.
Your job description may change a little bit in terms of what they ask you to do here in this scheme compared to what you were doing in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take a few game sample before we get a true gauge of what he can bring to the table. Now, if what Teron is saying is true, that means Eagles that have a problem like everybody else with Travis Kelce. If he's suspect in terms of covering the tight ends and stuff like that, they got a few teams coming up with some decent tight ends. Giants have Darren Waller, and say what you want to say about Waller, his health issues. Waller still, we're talking about a guy who's 6'6" and a good pass catcher when he's healthy.
Hey, let me just give you a little something here, Derek. Just an example of the difference between the way the Eagles operate and the Cowboys operate. So Jerry Jones doing his, infamous radio hits that he does with 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, okay, which he does every week. We talk about it a lot. But he was asked about the trade deadline approaching, and he said, quote, "It'll have to come our way. I don't want to preclude it in any way, but it always does." That's not showing a lack of aggressiveness. That's just where it starts. I like where we are with our personnel today, so I'm not thinking in any way that we need to upgrade our roster. And when I hear things like that, I think if you're an Eagles fan, you got to be thanking God that Howie Roseman does not approach things that way. Yeah. He's always on the hunt, if you will, and always looking to get better and not satisfied. Jerry is just, they got to come to us, and I'm satisfied with what we have. Okay, great. That's good news if you're an Eagles fan.
You would think for somebody who hasn't had a relevant playoff team or Super Bowl contender in over 25 years would be even more desperate than an Eagles team that went to a Super Bowl in 17 and 22. You know, Jerry, your America's team has been tarnished. Your team has become a laughingstock because when you do get to the playoffs, you're one and done. You know, that should be motivation in itself. What are we missing? You lose a cornerback you just paid 90-something million to in Diggs, but you're saying you're okay. Now, maybe you are, because I don't know your depth chart. But the fact that you could use another corner, you could definitely use another receiver, and you're saying you like where your roster is right now. You're okay. You're 4-2, but you struggle to get to 4-2, and you lost a game you shouldn't have lost. How can you sit there and say that your roster is fine the way it is? You know, you come out publicly saying we are committed to getting back to the Super Bowl, and then you come out of your face saying that you're fine where you are. Mm-hmm. You know, well, because you find where you are is exactly the reason why you're going to be where you're going to be at the end of the season, a playoff team that's one and done. You know, if you're committed to winning, how many one and dones can you be satisfied with?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
And that's why I've said jokingly and seriously, they need to lock Jerry in the room until the season over. Let his son, Stephen Jones, run the organization, put a fresh spin on the organization, and see what Stephen Jones, because as long as Jerry has a hand in, number one, pulling the strings on players, number two, publicly saying stupid things that contradict what you say before about how committed you are to winning, you're going to be exactly what you are, a mediocre team.
Yeah, Sills jumps in. There is the problem. Jimmy Johnson was daily trying to replace the bottom 1% of the roster. Jimmy made 57 trades in 5 years. Look, we all know they have never been the same since that split. They did have the one carryover championship that Switzer won, but we know that was all Jimmy Johnson.
That was all Jimmy Johnson's. Yeah.
Ever since that breakup, the Cowboys have never been the same. And as long as Jerry Jones is upright, Derek, you have no chance at that muzzle being put on him. He is going to continue to do it his way. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And that, you know, again, if you're an Eagles fan, you're thrilled. It was the same way I felt about Daniel Snyder. Washington was never going to get out of its own way with that guy owning them. Never. No. Now, we'll see what Josh Harris ends up doing, but he runs this team like he runs the Sixers. You're going to be okay there too. That's for sure. Had to work a little Sixers zing in there. All right. So a couple things. Positive, negative. Let's start with Jalen Hurts here. 100 passing yards so far. 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 67 completion percentage, 87.8 passer rating. He's rushed 74 times for 274 yards and 6 touchdowns. Let's face it, Derek, it's been an okay year for him. Like, he's had moments of brilliance. He's flashed at times, made a couple of flash plays on Sunday night, but he's also turning the ball over at an alarming rate, 10 already, which is more than he had all of last season. If he can just clean that part of it up, I think we can start to get, you know, the visions of the guy that we saw last year. But until that starts, you know, he hasn't been the same guy so far.
Well, because the rumors are running amok in terms of how long he's been injured. Even if he got injured in the Jets game, Jalen Hurts less than 100% is still better than most quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Yep.
Look at the last 2 games. The Jets and Miami had the heat on him. He was still able to escape on a bad leg, and he was still able to escape with an apparatus on his leg, which slows him down a little bit, and deliver the ball when he has to. Okay. If he's going to have to navigate through this, then so be it, because your option behind him, I don't want to see that option on the field. Now, we still don't know, and we don't know if it'll ever come out long as he can function, just how bad this so-called injury is with him. he may have to limp through the entire season. We don't know.
Oh yeah.
And if that is the case, then we're going to have the high moments and the low moments. If the first 7 games are an indication of what's to come with Jalen, then we're going to ride that proverbial roller coaster with him all season long. But if it gets you to the finish line as the number 1 team in the NFC and the number 1 seed in the number one team in the NFC East, number 1 seed in the NFC, you take that because you still have him on the field and not the sideline. I don't want to have to see him sitting out 2 or 3 games, especially crucial juncture of this season, which could cost them the possibility of having that number 1 seed at home. That top seeding and playing 1 less game is huge in terms of trying to get to where you want to go.
And I look, I know it worked out to the Eagles' favor last year, but the fact that it's only 1 team now that gets that bye, Derek.
Yep.
I really do think it should be the top 2. I know it's tricky with the way it's set up now with the additional teams and all that, but anyway, yeah, I hear you. Getting it is huge. It is. It really is. It's a big time difference getting that. So a couple more positives here. AJ Brown's on a serious, unbelievable pace.
Oh my goodness.
52 catches. He's already got 809 yards. He's averaging more than 15.5 yards per catch with 3 touchdowns. I mean, he threw it out there in the beginning of the year and he wasn't lying, man. He is tearing it apart so far this season. And I see no reason why that's going to stop this week against Washington.
No, I don't either, because Washington's corners can't match up with him. This guy's on pace for like an 1,800-yard season, which would be well over 300 yards better than what he did last season in terms of breaking Mike Quick's record of 1,409 for the most receiving yards in the season.
Yep.
He's big hands, sure-handed, makes the difficult catches. Not the fastest guy out there, but runs a great route tree and can, he's very deceptive in his route tree and can get by you, and make you pay in a hurry. We've seen him put a lot of DBs on the highlight reel, double coverage, one-on-one, bad mistake on your part trying to cover him one-on-one. His body size is too big for smaller corners. And I'm talking about even corners who are 6 foot 6'1". Mm-hmm. His body mass is too big for them to try to contend with for a 60-minute football game. If he stays healthy, he's going to obliterate Eagles records this season.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. Offensively, Derek, they're 4th in scoring at 26.6 points per game. They're 5th in rushing, 142.7. They're 9th in passing. So, I mean, look, you're in the top 10 in the big 3 categories. Yeah. Doing things, pretty well here. Mentioned the defensive numbers. The other good thing is, DeAndre Swift, 514 rushing yards. He's more than 5 yards per carry. He's got 2 touchdowns. He's averaging more than 73 yards per game. He's been really good. I mean, he's clearly the feature back. I think we went in not being sure exactly who it was. And while the numbers haven't really stood out in a big way lately, nonetheless, I mean, this guy's been very good. I mean, for a 4th rounder that you gave up to Detroit, that was a really good move by Howie for sure.
Oh my goodness. There's no question. And Howie comes up with these gems. And even when he makes these deals, he makes the deals to where it doesn't hurt them in terms of what they want to do for the next year. You look at some teams that have to give up a lot of high draft capital to get what they want. You look at what the 49ers gave up to get a Christian McCaffrey. Howie is so good at maneuvering and getting what he needs at a bargain basement price, even if it's only for 1 year. As was the case with CJ Look what CJ was on the back end of that defense for 1 season.
Yeah.
He tied for interception lead. He was great at covering. He was a great cover. He was a sure tackler. I hope Byard is all of those things. His resume says in the past, that's what he's been, the interceptions. Smart, heady, physical player. I hope he's all those things that they need, because that's huge in terms of making that defense that much more complete.
Oh, listen, without a doubt. But yeah, he's obviously very, very well thought of, across the board, as to what kind of player he is. That's for sure. I mean, we heard it from Terry McCormick, who we talked to a little bit later. That's, there's no doubt about that. So a couple other things, and I like doing the sort of the numbers thing just to kind of put things in perspective and, who's doing what. But, Josh Sweat's got 5.5 sacks already. He's got 5 tackles for loss. He's got 19 tackles total. He's forced 2 fumbles, and he's got a pass defense. He's becoming a Pro Bowl edge rusher, and really took that step last year, right in front of our very eyes. He's that guy, to have him and have Reddick both coming off the edge. You've got 2 nasty guys. You really do. I mean, Reddick's got 14 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 7 tackles for losses. And he's shown you that he has the ability to defend the run at a very high level too. You got 2 studs on the edge.
Oh, there's no question. The key is keeping them healthy. Every time Josh Sweat bends around that corner, I'm holding my breath, man, because I hope that knee doesn't resurface, rear its ugly head on him. He got through last season. So far so good this season, and he's playing at a high level. He's on pace for another double-digit sack season. And you're going to need that. You're going to need all the pressure you can get coming up. It was evident against Tua. You've got Mahomes, you've got Josh Allen, you got Geno Smith, you got Dak coming up. They're going to need that. They're going to need that. They're going to need both sides. We know what Reddick brings to the table when he's healthy, now that he has that cast off his hand. And even if Reddick is not getting a sack, his ability to put pressure, put heat on a quarterback, to speed up that quarterback's mental mechanism. A lot of times it'll force a quarterback to miss an open window, to throw a ball to a spot and the receiver's not there, pick, so on and so forth. The luxury that the Eagles have in terms of having those 2 guys off the edge is huge. Huge. The thing that surprises me is how Brandon Graham's numbers have been way down in terms of snap percentage. Now, Brandon basically said, as he did last year, that his snap percentage could decrease again this year, and lo and behold, it has. And if you think about it, we haven't heard Brandon Graham's name much all season long.
No,
and
I wonder, Derek, are they just pacing him for the end of the year, or do they feel like he's just not the same guy? I don't know.
It's a great question. It's hard to tell, because obviously he's healthy, and he does have a high motor, but a high motor at 35 is a lot different than a high motor at 27, 28, 30, but he's still valuable in terms of reading offense, technique, being able to be moved, loop around to the inside as well as from the outside. He still has some value with his team, but I'm just surprised that his snap count is down to where it is right now. I thought it would be a little better than that.
I am too. All right, so let's look at the young cats. Jalen Carter, 3.5 sacks, 13 tackles, 5 tackles for losses, 2 forced fumbles. Jordan Davis, 2.5 sacks, 19 tackles, 2 tackles for losses, and a forced fumble. They have 2 studs. They have 2 guys who you could potentially see being here and, going on a Fletcher Cox kind of those kind of careers. I mean, if they both keep their heads on straight and they stay healthy, I mean, they have been. They're no longer like I don't even consider Jalen Carter a rookie anymore. I feel like he's that established, and Jordan Davis's improvement from year 1 to year 2 has been awesome. Really, something to behold.
And they have these guys together under rookie deals for at least 3 more seasons together.
Yeah,
even if they decide to pick up the 5th-year option on Jordan Davis's contract, that's 3+ years they're going to be together. These young guys could be the top D tackle combination in the NFL for years to come. And the way the Eagles like to build their team from the inside out, what a foundation to set to build your team around in the future with these 2 and Milton Williams, because let's face it, Fletcher Cox is in the twilight of his career.
Yeah.
And we don't know how much longer he's going to be here, but we do know this. The Eagles are very good about keeping players that they identify as good locker room players and players who are worthy of trying to help them get to where they want to go. Fletcher Cox is that guy because they went out and re-signed him again this year when he possibly could have made more money somewhere else. And Fletcher wants to be here, like Brandon Graham wants to be here. But you also have to be very careful that you're not keeping a player beyond his effectiveness. And I don't mean this year, because Fletcher has been effective when he's had to be in certain crucial downs and situations, especially passing downs for the opposition. But sometimes a team can be loyal to a fault, and Brandon Graham has meant a lot to this organization over the last 5 years. But I'm sitting here wondering, Brandon's my boy. That's my guy.
Right.
I'm wondering, have they kept Brandon a little too beyond his effectiveness?
Yeah, the answer to that we may not know till the end of the year. I do wonder if there isn't a little bit of just build up. He's going to get more reps as we go. Here's the other thing, Derek. I mean, you don't want to have Sweat or Reddick off the field all that much.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, I'll take my chances with those guys all day. So maybe that's just a little bit of it. It's only natural. You want the guy who can be, have the greatest impact out there. No offense against Brandon. I'm just saying those guys have been awesome. So if he was playing on a lesser team, maybe he's getting more time. We'll see. I think the Brandon thing is a sort of wait and see, if you will, for sure. I'm going to go back to the last time they played the Commanders. So it was a tight one. Obviously, it went to overtime, and the Eagles won 34-31, a game that was a sweat. That's for sure. Hal had probably his best game as a pro, Derek. So Sam Howell went 29 of 41, 290 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 98 passer rating. McLaurin had a good game, 8 catches, 86 yards. Hurts had a nice game himself, 25 of 37, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a 112 passer rating. And A.J. Brown, as he's been doing against everybody, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the last game was a shootout. The Eagles need to clean things up. That was one of those games where you saw a lot of breakdowns, and I thought the new guys being thrown in there is what really you noticed it a lot in that game against Washington.
Oh, there's no question about it. Washington swung away, gave it the best chance they could possibly give them, and they still fell short in experience at the quarterback position. Obviously, that was the big difference in that game. The thing that really surprised me about that game was Washington was 4 for 5 in the red zone.
Yep.
4 for 5 in the red zone against this Eagles defense in that game. That was huge in terms of keeping that game close. There were 18 total penalties in that game. And we talked about how the Eagles officially had no penalties in this game. I'd be shocked if the Eagles don't have 6-7 penalties in this game against Washington, because it's a division game. Because Washington's ticked off, there's going to be some extracurricular stuff going on, and both teams at certain points in the game are going to get caught. Eagles had 11 penalties in that last game against Washington. 11. No coach wants to see his team with 11 penalties. Washington has 7. I expect the total of penalties to be somewhere in that neighborhood. I thought Washington also did about as good a job slowing down the Eagles' running attack. They held the Eagles to 104 yards running the football when they had been chewing up people before that meeting. Washington's front four is going to be a problem for this team. And we're seeing teams put the last 2 opponents in particular, the Jets and Miami. Look at how many times they were blitzing to try to make Jalen do certain things he didn't want to do.
Yep.
I expect Jack Del Rio to do the same thing. Their front four, their D-tackle combination of Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen are as good as anybody in the National Football League.
I agree. And they're both angry.
And they're both ticked off right now. They're both ticked off. That team is ticked off. Yeah. See, it's one thing when a coach steps to the podium and he speaks with passion and anger in his voice. You got to hear from the players. Mm-hmm. And when the players, when the so-called leaders of the team come out and speak that way, that's a sentiment across the board.
Yeah.
In that locker room. And the fact that they've lost 4 of the last 5, and the fact they get another shot at these Eagles, I picked the Eagles to win the game. You asked me today, tomorrow, leading up to the game, right before kickoff, I picked the Eagles to win this game because the Eagles keep finding ways to overcome anybody else's they keep finding ways to overcome adversity. And no matter what teams throw at them, they keep finding a way to put W's in the win column.
Yeah.
I fully expect them to do that again this week, but I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch of the
it never seems to be, especially in the NFCs, especially with that team. But I'll tell you, Derek, for some of the talent they have up front, this defense, just from a stat standpoint, is not impressive. I mean,
no, it's not. No.
They're 29th in points allowed.
Yep.
They're 21st against the run, and they're 28th against the pass. I mean, I expect the Eagles get in the 30s again. I have no reason not to believe that they can't put up 30-some-odd points like they did last time they played them.
I agree. I agree with you. The only thing is you have to stay balanced because Washington does have 23 QB sacks.
Yeah.
So they can't get after the quarterback.
Right.
Don't do like you did against the Jets and play into their hands where you're letting those 4 first-round draft picks come after you and maybe a delayed blitz from a linebacker or a safety.
Yeah.
Don't play into their hands. Have a more balanced attack the way you did against Miami, 34 rushing attempts to 31 pass attempts. That's the best way to take Washington off this game and to stay ahead of the curve. Sustain drives, chew up the clock, protect your quarterback. Try to establish that run against them. If you start putting the ball up again 45, 50 times like you did against the Jets, you're asking for problems, and you're asking your quarterback to take unnecessary hits again.
Yeah. Well, let me give you one
quarterback with a bad knee.
Let me give you one other stat. The flip side of that, the Commanders have allowed. I know, have allowed 40 sacks, 40 this year. Yeah. So this defensive line of the Eagles should eat. Like they should go crazy in this game.
I heard a stat earlier. Yes, I believe it was yesterday, that Washington is on pace right now for Sam Howell, if he stays upright and breathing, to be sacked 96 times this season, which would shatter the NFL record. I believe the NFL record is like 90.
It would destroy it. It would destroy it. Yep.
I think 76 is the record of a quarterback being sacked in a season, or quarterbacks for a team sacked in a season. They would shatter that record. You have to find a way to do something to do a better job of protecting Sam Howell.
Yep.
Because the Giants basically teed off every time Howell stepped back to pass. The Giants' defensive line was teeing off on Sam Howell. Mm-hmm. That was a big difference in that game.
Eagles get 4 or 5 easily. All right, let's come back. Let's set our sights on Game 7. The first time this has happened in Philly's history. They've been around since 1883, and they've never played a Game 7. So Anthony Sanfilippo, our buddy from Crossing Broad, is going to hop on with us. We'll preview. We'll commiserate from last night, and we'll see if the Phillies have a chance to win this bad boy. We might mix in some Flyers. We're off to a hot start, D-Gun. Hot start for the Flyers. We will get into that as well. All right, don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We'll talk to Ant when we get back. All right, I want to remind everybody about Blocks. Yes, Blocks is the largest scholarship organization in Pennsylvania. They have raised $110 million in scholarship dollars just in the last year, all awarded to families who qualify for tuition assistance. Award more than 17,000 need-based scholarships annually. You can direct your scholarship donation to any private or Catholic school in Pennsylvania. Participation in the program is simple. Takes only a few minutes. Send your check to Blocks, BLOCS, and they will do the rest. It's that simple. BLOCS.org/tax credit for more information. Average HHI of Blocks recipient is 55,000. Demand for tuition outpaces the supply of tax credit scholarships by nearly 3 to 1. There is little to no out-of-pocket cost to you to participate. For a few $100s, you could fund a child's full year tuition at a Catholic or private school. Blocks graduates 99% of their scholarship recipients versus 64% rate to the Philadelphia school districts. 96 cents of every dollar raised by Blocks goes directly into the hands of a family who qualifies for tuition assistance and can be only used for scholarships and tuition. Right back.